How's it going, everybody? Pirate Software is back at it again. Maldavius Fig Tree himself, the man who was so valuable at Blizzard for 7 years, they stuck him in a hot, stuffy room, smacking trees with various items to see if it would break the game. They saw so much talent in this man, they was like, you know what? This guy's father, he basically made the company. He's so good that we put him in charge of the South Park episode, something that brought tons of popularity to us. We're going to treat his son right. We're going to pay him minimum wage and have him basically do nothing. And just look at the ego on this man. And that ego just couldn't be contained by Blizzard in that chaotic workspace. It had to go and flourish. It went to Kickstarter, and Maldavius, Cody Banks from Wish, put his real skills to work, his manipulation skills. And he was finally able to get a game going. Well, he was able to get donations going to finally start his dream project, Heartbound. Now, it's been almost a decade, guys, but we're getting there. We're getting places. If only we could manipulate more hype trains, because yes, that's what we're going to start on today, guys. And then later in the video, we're going to look at past allegations made against Pirate Software, which coincidentally, add up to what's going on right now. It's kind of crazy that Pirate Software has been the same egomaniac his whole life. The hacker, the man who worked at Blizzard for 7 years, or is that just how he wanted to portray himself? Probably. But let me go ahead and tell you what's going on right now. You see, Pirate Software was dressed up as a banana. You know, it's kind of funny. These Lolcows do very similar things. Just like Onision, his career started with a banana suit, and Pirate Software's career ends with a banana suit. While he's clicking through his screen, he happens to click on some messages between him and a person named Kronos, and you might be familiar with Kronos. Kronos has lied before in the past, stating that he was a lawyer and that him and Pirate Software was going to sue this indie developer into oblivion, so he better delete his entire game off Steam, because the creator decided to meme on Pirate Software and put a little roach in a wizard hat on a file on Reddit. It wasn't even in the game, so Pirate Software was just going crazy for no reason. But what I want you to remember from this, when Pirate Software found himself in trouble, he sent this guy called Kronos onto him like an attack dog. It seems like Kronos and Pirate Software have a very nice relationship. They seem very close. So close that Pirate Software, when things are getting a little low on hype trains, he'll contact Kronos and be like, Kronos, man, you know, I'm struggling a little bit. And now all of this is alleged because we're just going from wording and nothing's confirmed yet. But once you guys see the messages, you're going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, this is probably what's going on. So when Pirate Software's hype trains are a little bit low, he'll contact Kronos and say, hey, will you please donate this amount? And you'll get an 82% return on that. And now most people in the world could only see that as one thing. Kronos is going to send in bits, right? And after he sends in these bits, maybe when Pirate Software gets paid, he's going to send them back 82 to 83% of these bits. Mainly it's just to keep the hype train going, because if you didn't know, Pirate Software is known for having the biggest hype trains on Twitch, which is a pretty insane feat. It's just kind of crazy that they were most likely, allegedly, artificially inflated by his moderator team. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this video by Legal Mindset so you can get a good idea of what's going on right now.
Pirate Software is down 104K subscribers in 1 month. That is impressive. That is truly impressive. I have never in my history of streaming seen somebody so quickly shed followers. I've seen people lose followers, and there's people that have lost, 10, 20, 30, 40K over the course of a month, but 100? That is insane. Now, that also can have to do with the fact that when you rise quickly, you fall quickly. He was one of the quickest people to come up. He went from a nobody nothing channel with, I think, 10 or 20,000 subscribers to all of a sudden 2 million within the course of, I believe, a couple months. It might even have been 2 months or something like that. He just shot up because he took over the shorts algorithm, and everyone was seeing his shorts everywhere because he was dominating the shorts algorithm. How many of these people here were spending massive amounts of money on his stream? We're sending bits, we're giving subs, etc., donating, right? How many of these people might have spent a lot of money on Pirate Software because they thought he was something, and as we're going to see today, they might feel defrauded by the actions that were exposed today. So we're going to talk about that. While live, Pirate Software accidentally showed a DM with his moderator. The DM showed that his mod was purchasing bits to extend Pirate's hype train. Now, to be very clear, for those that don't know, Pirate Software was very, very proud that he was like the hype train king, that he was like the reigning king of hype trains, who's setting the records, etc. This was something he took a lot of pride in. And because of this reason, oftentimes when you are like the king of something, you don't want to lose your crown, right? So what happens is you often end up doing things that are questionable to try to keep that crown, to try to keep that thing, because your ego gets invested in that.
So this is him pulling it up on stream here, and I'll just go ahead and let the rest of it play, as you guys will see that this is indeed Pirate Software. You can see his messages between Kronos, the ones that we were just showing you, and then you're going to watch him go ahead and delete the text-to-speech that he just heard.
What? What is this? Where is it? I'm going to find this. I need to find your message. God damn it. Click. Click, you garbage machine. What? Who are you? Why are you like this? Number 420. Deleted. Jesus Christ.
Now, number one, as far as I'm concerned, I think that's aptly proving that, yes, this is indeed Pirate Software. He's going through, he deleted the text-to-speech, you heard him talking about it, and he had the authority to delete that message. Now, the other thing I found interesting about this little chain of events here is that he quickly switches to a different DM after he realizes that this is on screen, and that happens before he goes to his Discord, and he looks a bit panicked, but that, again, I'm speculating here, right?
I want you guys to understand how unlikable Pirate Software is, because if you think about it, all Pirate Software did is voice an incredibly unpopular opinion, and it was a terrible opinion. Like, it was so on the corporate side, everyone in the public, like everyone could see that it was terrible and that he was only doing it for financial gain. And also, since Pirate Software has a video game that would suffer consequences from the Stop Killing Games initiative going into place, so he was probably going against it for that reason as well. But once people dug into him a little bit, they figured out that Pirate Software was one of the most unlikable people. Think about it. He lost 100,000 followers. The completionist who defrauded charity was like figured out to be one of the biggest scumbags, like at least a manipulating liar, right? But at least he didn't become a lolcow out of all this, because when it was time to go, when some charges were around the corner, the completionist said, you know what, we're out of here. But he didn't lose 100,000 subscribers. If you went and watched his videos, there was still like a decent amount of people supporting him, and the same can be said for Pirate Software, but he somehow lost more people than the completionist. And even someone like Carl Hopst, who lost a lawsuit to Billy Mitchell, he didn't even lose that many followers, and people were totally planning on making him the next Lolcow. They were going to meme him into oblivion, but he just didn't allow it to happen. Now, you could say that, you know, he's got his tendencies, but he still didn't allow it to happen. Pirate Software has done none of these things, but still yet has become so unlikable, he has cemented himself as Lolcow. And just to bring this up, what's crazy when Legal Mindset is pondering, like, how many of these hundreds of thousands of people that Pirate Software is losing as fans are big whales, like big time donators? Well, it's actually a huge chunk, but Pirate Software, he's a huge manipulator, guys. When we're going to look at Lyric Wolf's messages with Pirate Software later, you're going to see some very disturbing things and habits by Pirate. Like, Pirate was willing to take every bit of this person's life savings, and this was a person, after she said, like, you can have my life savings, Pirate Software was like, okay, now we're going to ramp up this communication. And it got a little heated, if you guys get what I'm saying, all because this person donated money to Pirate. So this is what he's doing behind the scenes. He's talking to his moderators, he's manipulating them, and by the sounds of it, from getting exposed by this with Kronos, he's using their money however he wants. He's taking advantage of his popularity by the fact that they see him as a role model and saying, hey, if you give this amount, I'll give you this back in return. I'm still going to make 17% of the profit, but this is only to keep the hype trains going. He's also like implying that this will keep the game going. You'll see Heartbound sooner if we can get this. Because when he was talking to Lyric Wolf, it was all about, yes, this is going to help Heartbound. Thank you for your donations, thousands of dollars. Like, you are so appreciated. This has now happened with 2 mods. This is a reoccurring habit that Pirate Software has shown, that he's willing to manipulate his biggest fans for financial financial gain.
Not only did, his mod do it, but his mod did it knowingly, and his mod did it under his instructions, saying, hey, this is how to do it. And in fact, he told them how to game it the best way. He said, hey, T3s might be better. Bits is 82% return when you buy them in bulk. Have you bought any yet? So he's implying, hey, I'm going to pay you back for that. So you're going to give me the bits and I'm going to pay you back because we're just going to keep the hype train going. It's how we're going to keep the hype train going, right? And we're going to talk about the legality of that or whether it breaches. And Serendipitous being here, who is the confirmed alt, is not painted as alt of Kronos. He's painted as IRL friend of Kronos. This is deceptive. This is very deceptive. And it's misleading because he is not an IRL friend. He is Kronos. And excited that they are now free from corporate. Love your stream and what you do for people here. There aren't many cool or supportive streamers left once they get big like this. Stay cool, bud, and tell Kronos that Ben sends his regards. So there you go. This is this serendipitous being, right, who is just the sock puppet, but pretending to be the friend. And I like this. Now they're free of corporate. What does this imply? This implies that they're free from corporate, working for Pirate. Right, working for Pirate. So there's 3 legal issues: the Twitch terms of service, the federal law violations, and the state law violations. Now, Quinn Theo talks about 2 of these. He talks about the TOS and he talks about the federal law. So I'm going to let him talk about that and comment on his video. And then we're going to get into the state stuff, which is stuff that I'm bringing up separate to that. I have read all of this, and I do have a PowerPoint slide on this.
Now I'm just going to read the title of this area that I'm going to be reading from. Bits cannot be directly exchanged for items or services of value. Now that specifically directly exchanged is a bit, convoluted here since it's going directly to the stream, but then supposedly, potentially, Kronos will be getting paid back. The front line reads, don't engage in an exchange of bits for items or services that typically are associated with a cost or value. Communities can gather to achieve a goal that unlocks a benefit or experience for the community, explained further below. Creators can announce benefits in response to individual cheers. However, in each of those scenarios, the activity does not provide a return of anything of value.
So one of the overall things that they're concerned about here, just understand, is that bits are not money. And they're not ersatz currency. They're not some sort of substitute currency or whatever else. They're their own little thing within the Twitch ecosystem, right? But it has to be very clear that they're not using bits in a way that is a replacement for currency or as a form of currency, etc., because there's issues there with that, right? And there's regulatory issues with that
because they want to build it up. Because
by the way, this is very standard. In fact, watching anime, lessons you learn from anime, watching The Great Pretender, they have a scene in that where in the beginning, this guy is selling some scam tea. It's like some phony tea. And he has somebody in the audience who's a plant. And the plant is bidding at a high price to get everybody in the audience to bid. So when you see other people spending, it's a very common psychological tactic for scammers. They will have somebody in the audience willing to pay a high price who's working with them. So they're like, oh, I'll pay you $10,000 for that. So everybody in the audience thinks, wow, $10,000 is a deal. Wow, I'm going to pay $10,000 too, right? You're being misleading about that. So you might lead somebody to say, hey, we're on hype train level 1 million, right? But only, half of that is legitimate. Well, that is leading people to think it's somewhere where it wasn't, and perhaps to get artificially excited about you breaking a record or being number 1, when really you shouldn't be anywhere near number 1. Maybe you should be way, way down in the rankings if you weren't having those return systems with your mods, right?
So I seen a few arguments people made that PirateSoftware didn't do anything wrong. He was simply telling Kronos that, hey, when you send me bits, I get 82% in return, which just simply isn't true. When people buy bits on Twitch, you pay more than the bits that you get, and the bits that you send to the creators, 100% go to the creators. I'm pretty sure that's like the gimmick of them. And then some people have said, well, PirateSoftware is simply telling the dude that if you buy in bulk, you'll be saving around 83%. And that would be the most likely thing, unless we didn't know this about PirateSoftware. If you watch just a little bit more into the video, we're going to be discussing Lyric Wolf's messages between him and PirateSoftware. And I've mentioned this before, but PirateSoftware is a man who likes to speak in absolute. He doesn't cut corners, he means exactly what he says. And if you were going to get 82% back, you would, say 82% back, or you're going to save 82% when you do this. And I don't even think you save that fat amount of money when you buy in bulk. It's just pretty much stated clearly that, if you pay this amount, then I can get you this amount back. We're going to be putting the other aside, but 83% is a pretty good return, is it not? And it looks even worse when you know that PirateSoftware and Kronos have colluded in the past to do some grimy things behind the scenes. And Legal Mindset brings up a great point, is that PirateSoftware and Kronos are also manipulating things. If they are like manipulating the hype trains, that means they're getting on like publications that they shouldn't. PirateSoftware has been on news articles for having the most hype trains out of any streamer in the world. And you could say, wow, this guy has like 35,000 viewers, but somehow he's getting all these hype trains. And does anyone else here like find some similarities with how DSP was getting donations? Now I'm just going completely off memory, but like DSP was getting something like $6 per every viewer he had, and that was like $2 or $3 higher than every other streamer on the Twitch platform. And that's because Phil would communicate with his mods in the background and have them send like thousands of dollars of donations. Now Phil wasn't giving any of it back. That wasn't happening at all. But this is like a very similar tactic to what he used to do. Maybe PirateSoftware is doing something very similar.
So what he gets into is the federal law, the Federal Deceptive Trade Practices Act, which requires 3 elements: a representation or omission that is likely to mislead a customer, the customer's interpretation being reasonable, and a misleading representation, omission, or practice that is material. So in terms of the representation is, hey, we have people out here that are giving these subs, and they're, normal people, they're regular people. And you're leaving out the fact that that person is your mod and that they're getting money back from you. And because of that, you are donating a lot. So going back to, and I'll fast forward here to this one, any of the whales that donated a lot of money, someone earlier mentioned damages, right? If you spent yourself $100, $200, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, think about this guy. Maybe, he's been doing this for months. Maybe this goes back. 6 months, 7 months. You've been donating thousands of dollars to this guy, and you've been completely misled. You might have a claim against this guy. It's possible. So the other issues, I think, and this is a big one, is advertisers. So advertisers are going to look at this situation and be able to say, hey, look, we paid for the guy who's number one on the hype train. We paid for the guy who's leading the charts, who's on the front page, etc. If he really should have been on the back page, if he really should not have been this guy, that's not what we signed up for. That's not what we paid. We were misled. And even if they don't sue, they could be angry. They could pull their ads. They could say, hey, listen, Twitch, you have a system that's being gamed. So how do we know if you're willing to do this, you're not cheating in other areas? So if you're allowing cheating like this, you could be allowing other types of cheating. Who knows? It's a floodgates argument. And that opens the fraud floodgates. If you allow Pirate to get away with it, everyone's going to do it. It's going to just be a practice. And then Twitch is just going to be a platform where it's all artificially inflated numbers. Everyone's pumping their own numbers up to look like they're amazing. And you can't really trust those numbers at all.
So when it comes to the deception thing, I'm not too sure about it because all kinds of creators get donations from like fans and alt accounts. It's not crazy. But what I do think is kind of odd about it is how Kronos is like willingly telling PirateSoftware. Like normally someone's doing it on an alt, like you just receive it off of alt and you have no idea it's from the same viewer you normally get it from. It's just weird that they had this communication with one another, and when Kronos brings these ideas up, PirateSoftware is the larger creator, the responsible person here, the person in charge who's in control of his stream, doesn't shut it down immediately or says, well, you can do what you want, but I want no part in it, which is how the conversation should have ended. But instead, PirateSoftware goes right along with it. But there's plenty of things that PirateSoftware goes right along with that he shouldn't, like potentially cheating on his wife with Lyric Wolf and another person, but PirateSoftware is in a poly relationship, so it gets a little confusing. Ferrets are often found in hordes, or at least that's how I see them, all mangled up together. So let me tell you what these two ferrets were up to, or at least a ferret and a dog, or I'm pretty sure that's how they roll. So PirateSoftware, PirateSoftware is a big fan of knots. He was the #1 Boy Scout 10 years running, did it longer than he was at Blizzard. The boy can make knots out of anything. And in this message he has with Lyric Wolf, Lyric says to him, yes, I'm interested. I'm sorry, I haven't been super active lately, but it's just because of school. school. And PirateSoftware said, and you didn't find anyone else? With a weird little dog picture. I'm pretty sure that's like how he flirts. I'm not too sure about it. And she says, to be honest, I've been around here recently, but no, not really found anyone else. This excites PirateSoftware, you know, his ferret senses kick up. You know, he looks at everyone in the enclosure and says, guys, we got another one, and then hides it from his wife very quickly. But then all of a sudden, PirateSoftware figures out something that he couldn't believe. It turns out when you have an online relationship, typically the other person doesn't see it as very serious and will talk to many other people. And PirateSoftware was just appalled by this realization. He goes, you ignored my advances and erped with other dudes. Not much else to say there. To be real, this is messed up. Like, I have no idea if you even realize how messed up this is to me. We even had plans to meet up IRL in like a month. This is the reason I don't date people. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the reason. You know, not because most people aren't ferrets. That's probably a bigger problem for you, Pirate. Can't stop yourself from messing around for 5 minutes. I was literally here every night. You see, PirateSoftware just couldn't handle the fact that someone else could see him as just a regular person. He wasn't the show. Someone else was getting attention and he didn't like it. It's almost like this guy has the biggest ego on the entire internet. What did this dude work at Blizzard for 7 years or something? Man, I better calm down or he might hack me. He'll just walk right past me with a little chip in his watch and I'm done for. But let's go ahead and move on to the next message as PirateSoftware continues to seethe. Neat. Mine 0 and messing around 0 because I told you I was into you and had mutual plans. Pro tip, foundations don't include messing other people's life. I don't trust you after this little side quest, so what do you want? And you know, Lyric responds, it was when you was asleep, to be fair. Our sleep schedules don't exactly align. So Lyric, I guess, like ignored him while he was sleeping, and that's just out of the question for PirateSoftware. Do you know how hard he works on Heartbound, on his stream, coding 24/7? The dude doesn't sleep. He sleeps like Batman. He works off micro sleep. You're just talking to him for a second. Oh, he fell asleep for 20 seconds. And you know, he's back at it again. And in these next messages, you can just tell that PirateSoftware views himself as the smartest man in the room. It doesn't matter who he's talking to. It could be the reincarnation of Albert Einstein, but this dude would be over there trying to give him a lecture. Just listen to this. I just wish people would respond to the things I'm actually saying instead of what they assume I mean. Like what is that? Everyone has feelings, PirateSoftware, and everyone's going to have like a different take than you. Like, he can't see other people's opinions. That's why he's so egotistical. He views himself as the only right person. The world isn't black and white, PirateSoftware. There's shades of gray all over the place. I speak plainly. I don't hide anything, except when you're talking to your mods in the background and some of the stuff you're telling Lyric Wolf. But yeah, ignore that part. I don't require reading between the lines. There is no, if you don't want that anymore, then I understand. If I didn't, I would say so. And I have clearly said the opposite here more than a few times, so like, what gives? He's like making this into like a business meeting. You're having a conversation with somebody. You're so condescending, PirateSoftware. It literally oozes off of you. And he tries to sound like he's this super nice guy behind the scenes, but this is how he's talking to somebody he's trying to get into a relationship with. And it's kind of manipulative if you think about it. He's like telling this person, oh, you're going to have to talk to me in this manner and no other way. Like, that's kind of crazy, isn't it? Like, people should be able to talk to you, PirateSoftware, and speculate on your feelings without you having a complete meltdown. Yeah, sure, it can be annoying, but just because someone else feels differently or has a different viewpoint doesn't make them the bad guy in the scenario. And then he goes on to say, nope, I'm in a bad mood because of the community. Yesterday, one of our prominent members openly attacked me on stream, claiming that I didn't care about the game and never do dev streams anymore. Think about this. This is back like what? 5 years ago maybe? He's been having the same problem. PirateSoftware, you do not work on the game. You have not got the game out. This dude had like a reasonable response to you. He probably donated a large amount in Kickstarter and he's just wondering why you spend all your times doing something else. Yes, streaming is probably far more profitable to you, but you got to make that clear. It's like when you have a Kickstarter and people are donating to you, you have to like be purely open about every single one of your intentions because it leaves you open for things like this. The best option is to get the thing you kickstarted done so you don't have to deal with incoming stuff like this. But Pirate goes on to say, they've been actively telling people to not watch the gaming or sponsorship streams, stating that everyone should only watch Heartbound related content. So I had to write a public statement regarding where our studio gains income from, the state of our income as a studio, and how viewership impacts our income even without donations. Viewership is a big piece of the pie due to sponsorships. Why is Lyric Wolf, like a random person who knows nothing about this, need to hear all of your like whining and complaining? You just want to tell her how important you are, and the fact you had to make a public statement over one person doing it is absolutely insane. Like, when things like this happen to you, PirateSoftware, you are a million plus sub creator. I think he might be close to 1 million, at least in the hundreds of thousands. When like one person has been like chaotic, like maybe you just like remove them from the stream if they're doing stuff that's like nonsense. But Pirate, the person was making a good point. At the most, you should have apologized to them and said, you know what? I appreciate what you said, and I'm going to look into that. I'm going to start, providing more content for you, coding more, because I do. Thank you. But no, you let it get so bad. He goes on to tell Lyric Wolf. Now, and remember, guys, she has no business knowing about this. He just wants to sound responsible and cool and the business person to Lyric Wolf. And I've been saying her, but it's a him. Excuse me, guys. To the people who have already left a comment like Lyric Wolf is a guy. I'm sorry. A side effect of this is that we didn't have the standard monthly income to responsibly go to DreamHack this year. Despite DreamHack giving us a free table, they reached out to us and offered a free 10-foot table for specifically Heartbound, and I had to turn them down. Like what? Like, you're telling me one guy who caused so much chaos in your stream, you decided you have to turn down an opportunity for your game, which would be exactly what they want. You could easily say, oh, well, we're actually going to this huge convention to spread more awareness for the game, so I think we'll get more financial opportunity from it. But no, you just have a complete meltdown over nothing. Do you understand how pathetic this is? I know this was in DM, but this is just pathetic behavior. The options are simple, but you want to make it so hard. Get your game done and go to DreamHack and promote it more. What are you doing? And don't worry, it gets far worse. It gets far more controlling, and PirateSoftware proves that, he'll talk to Lyric only if it's for money and if Lyric is going to listen to everything that he says. Because Lyric manages to make him mad somehow, and PirateSoftware uses the craziest terminology I've ever heard in my life. He makes him mad and he says, you pride yourself on being a dog, but I'm not seeing the loyalty. Fix that. Maybe we'll talk when you do. Alright, I'm here for you no matter what. No, you're not. You're not a good boy. You don't sit when I tell you to. You don't give me paw. All you do is talk to other people on the internet. How dare you? When did they give the dogs the ability to type? That was the biggest problem in the world. Is that don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. Don't you dare hawk up that leg and let it fly. If you were here for me, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And then we move on to him just having like a complete conniption over the definition of relationship. We're only going to read it a little bit, but look how far he goes. Alright, let me break this down for you. A relationship can be anything from dating to marriage. Dating is casual. You're dating someone, trying them out, seeing if they fit. Like, calm down there, PirateSoftware. If anyone goes this far, like when you're trying to talk to them, like immediately you hit the door, or I guess you turn off the phone, you block them. But this person was head over heels for PirateSoftware, so in love that he was willing to donate his entire savings to PirateSoftware. And let this be said, if you're for some reason in communication with one of your viewers for whatever reason, and they're telling you they're about to donate their entire life savings to you, even if you're in live stream, as the content creator, you are responsible for saying, hey, whoa, what are you doing? Like, it's not crazy. Like, there's been times in my stream, like, you see someone's typing a little wild, they've been donating a little crazy, you gotta say, hey man, you've been hitting the bottle a little too much, let's calm down there. Like, we don't need this, the 20s are okay, but chill, homie. Like, you have the responsibility to do that as like a content creator. I guess it's like a weird unspoken rule, but you don't let your viewers financially destroy themselves over you if you're aware of it. This is one of the biggest things about Phil, like DSP. Like, he knew like so many of his viewers because he was talking to them behind the scenes and knowing that they were getting loans to donate to him, and he wasn't saying no, don't do that. He was saying, okay, all right, that's fine. You want to get a loan, like put yourself in a bigger hole for me? Yeah, go ahead and do it. This is like a very similar thing to what he's doing. So Lyric Wolf goes on to say, that one night I asked you how much to make Heartbound free, I was thinking about dumping my entire savings into it. But what I have is nowhere compared to what those companies offered you, which is a fair statement. This person, he has been far more responsible than PirateSoftware, and PirateSoftware just responds, holy shit. I mean, I'm not using it anyways. It wouldn't make the game free, but it would definitely make it so we didn't have to worry about this shit anymore. And this person, Lyric Wolf, PirateSoftware knows that they are not like financially responsible. I don't think I screenshotted it, but you can go look and it's there. They're telling them that they don't know anything about financial responsibility. They made $1,000 off YouTube and was like, hey, is that ballin'? And PirateSoftware, a person who's paid for rent and stuff like that, $1,000 isn't going to get you very far. But when this dude is telling him like, hey, I'm going to give you like $3,000+, which they eventually do, PirateSoftware like falls in love with them all of a sudden. Instead of doing the responsible thing, like telling them, no, stop, don't give me this much money. What are you doing with your life?
That's not good. That's not good. That's dangerous.
Let's up those numbers!
That's not good. That's not good.
So here you see now that PirateSoftware messages them, adjust, Lyric Wolf increased their pledge from $506 to $3,000. And a person who doesn't know that $1,000 isn't like a whole lot of money, thinking that it's ballin', for them to have a $500 pledge is absolutely insane. But Pirate goes on to say, what the heck? And this person has like I think it means something else, but it's a weird face sign, I'm pretty sure. He says, you don't have money though. And this person says, I have credit. That counts. So they're ruining their credit score for you, PirateSoftware. And the next message isn't, okay, stop this. I'm going to refund you everything. And think about this also. PirateSoftware is talking to this person. What does he say, or how much does he care about the other viewers he's in contact with, his other moderators, because we know that he is. Well, after this person donates their entire life savings to PirateSoftware, sends him a dog picture with disturbing implications, and then they eventually, after this, he sends $3,000 to him. Now, honestly, Lyric did end up like decreasing their donation amount all the way to, I think, $2,000 or so, because he was just trying to reach like the limit to get Heartbound, like something to do with Heartbound. But they're like, okay, now we're going to go meet up at TwitchCon. I think it was 2018 TwitchCon. And the only thing PirateSoftware had against this is that he had to break away from his partner Shay. As you can see here, I need to find a way to break away and do that since Shay is here with me. Oh yeah? And you're the only one that drives, right? Yes. So he's just gonna abandon his whatever. I don't know if Shay's a girl or a guy. I can't tell because of the name and I don't know the person. But he says yes, and he says that complicates things. Ideally, I'd want to spend both nights with you if possible. But whatever, ferret's gotta do what a ferret's gotta do. They can squeeze into any hole imaginable. And after they spend the night together, Lyric figures out that Thor is not only in a relationship with this Shay person, but that he's also married. He was just hiding that from everybody, and Lyric decided to expose the relationship with PirateSoftware to Shay, and this didn't go over well with PirateSoftware. He's like, nah dude, you're not sending logs to Shay. What? I don't know what you want. Please leave me alone. You showed me Shay's logs of our conversation and now he's talking to me about them. Why would that ever be okay is beyond me. I have no words for you right now. If you would have just told me what's going on, I would have been fine with it. Don't really care, dude. Nothing is even going on. And then proceeds to try to frame this as if Lyric was the person who wanted this entire relationship. But if you read the messages and you look into it, it was obvious that PirateSoftware was just coaching him through the entire thing. Like, hey, this is how I want you to act. This is the way you're going to act if you want to be in a relationship with me. And I don't really care about your feelings. You're going to do what I say, when I say, and donate thousands of dollars to me. But I guess that's enough for me today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, follow all the socials down below, and I'll catch you guys next time.